This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the Lenovo ThinkPad P14s Gen 2. So, as you might guess, second generation of the Intel-based model. They also made an AMD Ryzen one with AMD Ryzen 4000 Pro processors. Will there be a Ryzen 5000 with Pro processors in this? It could be, but we're looking at the Intel one today. So this is an interesting and no doubt a confusing thing, and that's why you have to watch videos like this. The Lenovo ThinkPad P series are their mobile workstations. Some of them can get pretty big and relatively heavy by today's standards because they're very powerful. They're meant for people who are doing rendering, CAD, all sorts of things, Creo, you name it. So this obviously is a thinner and lighter sort of laptop. There's also a 15-inch model, which is the P15s, very similar. And this one does not have, you know, H series 45-watt hexa-core CPUs or something like that in it, or heavy-duty graphics. This is more like a delight for programmers in the company they might be buying for, and also for those maybe who have to show some CAD drawings, whether you're not doing a whole lot of rendering and all that sort of thing. It's very thin, it's very light, and one of my favorite things about it is the luscious 4K display. Something you won't see, for example, in the ThinkPad T14 series of laptops if you try and differentiate and figure out which one you want. We're going to look at it now. So inside we have Intel 11th Gen U-Series Ultrabook quad-core CPUs, and we have NVIDIA Quadro T500 graphics. That's a quite low-end GPU. In consumer GPUs, that would be closest to something like the NVIDIA MX150. It's better than nothing is about what you can say for this. However, it does have ISV certifications for things like SolidWorks and Creo and ArcGIS. So for those of you, again, more probably for showing designs than actually doing a lot of design work yourself, then this laptop can work. It's available with full HD display, IPS, but what I really like, and wow, when I opened it up, I was like, oh, this is nice. The 4K IPS display, which is wide gamut, also quite bright, and it's HDR 400 certified. In fact, ours measured 541 nits of brightness. For those of you who have to actually use this outdoors, especially given the fact that this is a matte non-touch display without glare, wow, it's great. By the way, if you do go for the full HD versions, they're 300 nit, and you have your choice of touch or non-touch. As usual, you can get this with Core i5 and Core i7 CPUs, a variety of those. You can see that when we list the specs for you. It has a single RAM slot plus some RAM soldered on board. When we look at the internals, I'll explain what I mean by that a little bit more fully. There's an M.2 NVMe SSD slot, and you can get this with optional WLAN 4G LTE, and of course you have Intel Wi-Fi 6 on board. And that is the AX210 card, which means that's Wi-Fi 6E. We are forward-looking with Bluetooth 5.2. So not bad. What I like about the laptop, besides the fact it's quite thin and quite light, is the keyboard. Very nice. Your traditional ThinkPad keyboard. Granted, this is not a chunker, so you're not going to get like 2 millimeters of key travel or something, but key travel on this is quite reasonable. It feels nice and tactile. For those of you who didn't like the X1 Carbon maybe as much because you felt the key travel was a little less than you liked or something like that, this feels a little bit more traditional in terms of the tactility of it. Good stuff here. And of course you have the usual trackpad and the eraser stick pointer. Like a mobile workstation, it has a lot of ports, which is something you don't always expect to see, especially on an S-series, thinner, lighter laptop. We have 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports. We have 2 USB-A, one on each side. Conveniently enough, you have an HDMI 1.4 port. You have a micro SD card slot that's UHS 2. And Ethernet too, gigabit Ethernet, and of course the headphone jack. So not bad in terms of connectivity. You're not certainly assigned to dongle life here or desperately needing a docking station, though of course Lenovo does offer docks for all their laptops. Oh, and of course there's an optional smart card reader because it is a business laptop. In terms of security, you have a fingerprint scanner and a Windows Hello IR camera is optional on this. In terms of durability, it's the usual ThinkPad stuff, dust, vibration, shock, cold weather, hot weather, you know, that sort of thing. Definitely sturdy, rigid build here, and their usual matte black, understated ThinkPad-y kind of look. In terms of performance, again, Core i5 and Core i7, these are the U-Series Ultrabook CPUs, and the NVIDIA T500 graphics card inside. So performance-wise, it performs like your average Ultrabook with a little extra oomph. Again, sort of like an NVIDIA MX150. If you were going to have some fun and play a little older game or something like that, it would certainly help with the frame rates a little bit to make something playable to 30 frames per second that might have not been otherwise. In terms of serious CAD, architectural work, ArcGIS, that sort of thing, If you're the person who's actually doing those designs, again, you're going to want something stronger. If you're the person presenting those designs, it's great. If you're a programmer, given the nice keyboard and the sharp display on this, ooh la la, it will be very nice. The fans on this, or fan, it's not terribly loud, but you'll hear it with some frequency, even if you're not doing heavy lifting. But it's, again, it's an Ultrabook fan. It's well tuned, so it's not loud. It's more like a little shh, and definitely not roaring, that sort of thing. Surface temperatures are fine on this. If you push it super duper hard, you can get it a little hot on the bottom underside, sure, but in general, surface temperatures are not much of an issue here. The carbon fiber kind of design that they use is nicer to the touch than your average aluminum thin and light Ultrabook. For a battery, we have a 51 watt-hour battery, which is perfectly fine for a 14-inch laptop, and a 65-watt fast charger, and it plugs into the USB-C port on this. And as you would expect, because we're not talking about a lot of heavy lifting horsepower here, and even that NVIDIA T500 card is not going to use up a lot of power, this is pretty good for 9 to 10 hours of use, business, light use, that sort of thing, at 200 nits of brightness with Wi-Fi on and active. So that's not too bad, is it? To take off the bottom cover, you unscrew the Phillips head screws. They are all visible. These are captive screws, so they will stay connected to the bottom cover. Be sure to remove the nano SIM card tray from the back first, though, so you can actually get this cover off. And then you're going to have to pry around a little bit more than average for ThinkPad. And as you can see, it's a wrap-around edge, so that's why you're going to have to use a pry tool a little bit more than you would usually have to do with a ThinkPad because of, well, again, the wrap-around design. And there's the underside, and here are our internals. So notice that we have one RAM slot, which is better than no RAM slots. Hey, yay that. This does have memory soldered on board. Depends on which configuration you get. It could either be 8 or 16 gigs soldered on board. So you can order it with up to 32 gigs of RAM. If you do that, 16 gigs will be soldered. If you order a 16 gig model, then 8 gigs will be soldered on, and the rest will be in a module here. Our heat sinks for our CPU and GPU right here. Of course, the cooling fan is over here, pretty decent size. Since we're not talking about serious heavy lifting in the horsepower department, we don't need massive cooling here. Under here, this is where the 4G LTE card would go if you ordered it with that feature. The Wi-Fi card, however, is soldered down, so that is not replaceable, and that's right here. The M.2 SSD is here. Again, anything from 128 gig up to 2 terabytes and NVMe fast SSDs. And the battery is right here, 51 watt-hour. So that's the Lenovo ThinkPad P14s. Again, in mobile workstation category, but not exactly a true mobile workstation, but a lot of ports, a really nice sharp 4K display option that you won't find, say, on the T series of laptops from Lenovo. Yes, it gets confusing. They make so many laptops that are so similar. So those are the things that stand for this laptop. Really, there's nothing I can say terribly against it as long as you like the ThinkPad look, which is fine with me. I'm Lisa from MobileTechReview. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, and thumbs up if you like this vid.